Evening to one and all present here again. So today's lecture will be on Chola bronze technology, its significance and historical importance. So in this lecture, we'll be looking at a little bit of science behind Chola bronze technology, the Archaeo metallurgy behind it, a little bit of historical aspects, and also the ethnographical aspect behind it. If I'm going too fast or if my audio has some glitch, do kindly let me know. Thank you. So what we would be seeing in this lecture would be, first, we would see a little bit of introduction of bronze, then bronze in India in the archaeological context, very briefly. Then we'll see about the Cholas, Chola bronzes and the queen. Then who made these Chola bronzes and how were these made, and the conservation and preservation technique for the Chola bronzes, and also the law behind the Chola bronzes as it holds a very huge heritage and cultural value. So basically, bronze is an alloy of copper and tin. It is the predominant alloy that is used around the world. So as an archaeologist, we study cultures from Stone Age, then Metal Age, and to the modern age. So the Stone Age is classified into early Stone Age, middle Stone Age, and the later Stone Age, or the Neolithic. By the end of Neolithic, the human gets to identify metals and he specializes himself with the technology of making tools and items out of it. So, one among the metal that he identifies is copper. So, bronze is an alloy of copper and tin. It contains 80% of copper and tin. All around the world, bronze can be made of different combinations. Copper is constant, but the element added to it can differ. So, why copper is utilized around the world is because of its durability. It is a metal which is 100% recyclable, and all its character is intact even after recycling it for more than 3 to 4 times. It is energy efficient, it is soft and brittle. Because of its brittle nature, we add another metal or metalloid to it. So there are different types of bronzes around the world. In Dolavira, we get unleaded bronze. In Saran, we get leaded bronze. In Adichanallur and Shivagalai, we get high tin bronze. The Chola bronze that we are going to see is of low tin bronze. So, bronze is not a permanent combination or composition of metals that it is constant throughout the world. It differs from region to region, even within a subcontinent or even within a very small geographical location. The composition of the bronzes differs. Apart from the bronzes, we also look at bronze making idols that comes in the later period of history. So basically in India, we make two types of idols, which are an alloy of copper. It can be classified as Panchadhatu and Ashtadhatu. Panchadhatu is an alloy of 5 metals, which is made in southern India. It comprises of zinc, tin, copper, silver, and gold. Whereas Ashtadhatu is an alloy of 8 metals. It has the same composition of Panchadhatu. In addition, it has iron, lead, and mercury. We have ancient texts, literary sources that also speak about the ancient metallurgy, metals, their names, and also the casting method. Few of the ancient texts include Rig Veda, Atharvana Veda, Agni Purana, Upanishads. The predominant text that mainly concentrates on metallurgy and castings are Manasara, Vishnu Dharmota, and Shilparatna. In these three texts, they mention a technique called Madhuchitta Vidhanam. Madhuchitta Vidhanam is nothing but Madhu is bee, Chitta is wax. So they are talking about a bee wax casting technique, which is in modern days, it is called as lost wax technique or cire perdue. Cire perdue is the original term from French, which got translated to lost wax technique in English. So I will very briefly talk about the famous bronzes that we acquired in India. The first image is the mother goddess image from Adichanallur. The second image is the bronze tiger image from Kodumanal. It has carnelian beads embedded in it. The third image is the bullock cart image from Daimabad. The fourth image is the dancing girl image from Mohenjo-daro. And the fifth image is the bronze bowls and utensils from Nilgiris from the megalithic period of it. So in this map, if you could see widely, it marks the ancient bronze yielding sites. So when we talk about bronze, as copper forms the major metal, we should talk about the copper mines or the raw materials from where the copper were acquired. So the copper were mainly acquired in the Malwa region. We call the K3 belt of the Aravalli Hills. And we also have some copper mines in the central Himalayan region as well. So these two are the prominent copper yielding sites in India. Apart from that, in this map, if you could notice, I have also mentioned the contemporary bronze workshops. So in India, not only in southern India, even in the northeastern India and parts of eastern India, we have bronze workshops. They follow the same lost wax technique, but in different methods. In this lecture, we will be concentrating on the Tamil South Indian way of bronze making. So here, if you see, we have Lowadi, Bankura, Mayurbanj, Jagadalpur. So these are the other bronze making workshops that we find all around India. The predominant one that we will be talking about today is here, Swami Malai, and the other few sites that would be mentioned are the Tanjavur style and the Nagapattinam bronze workshop. Yeah. So when we talk about Chola bronzes, we cannot separate Cholas from it. So as we all know, Cholas is a dynasty that ruled the southern part of India from 9th century to 13th century. They established power in the end of 9th century through Tiruppurambiam battle, which weakened the Pallavas and Pandyas who were at peak power then. So the first ruler was the Vijayalaya Chola. It is believed that he was a chieftain who ascended the throne and he made Tanjavur his capital. And Cholas were very strategic and they used this political chaos and the rivalry between Pallavas and Pandyas. And when the right time came, they took the political dominance. And about the region they ruled, because we have only if we have the idea of the region they rule, we would get the idea of the raw material and the lifestyle and how they had the privilege of making the Chola bronzes. So the region they ruled was the Kaveri Delta region. It was a fertile region where Kaveri flooded. So it covers modern day districts of Tiruchirappalli, Tanjavur, Nagapattinam, Tiruvarur, Ariyalur, Pudukkottai, and Karaikal. We call Cholas the visionaries for a reason because they excelled in administration, irrigation, overseas trade and commerce, art, architecture, literature, and donations and commemorations. Again, all these were possible only because they had very less rivals in their boundaries and also because of the fertile land that they ruled. So in this map, we could have an idea of the Chola dynasty, its extent, and also the influence. So here we could see that Cholas had conquered until Kalinga and up extended until the Bengal. And if you could see also, the Cholas have an influence over the southeast region as well. So we have the Srivijaya Empire, the modern day Indonesia here. We have Panay, we have Kadaram, Malaysia, modern Malaysia. So, and also, as we all know, Cholas had a very strong hand over Sri Lankan territories. So here's a speculation or hypothesis that historians, art scholars, and archaeologists have is that is it only because of maritime trade that Cholas controlled Sri Lanka? As I had already mentioned, to make bronze, we predominantly require copper. And as we had already seen, copper mines are only available in the northern part of India. It is really hard to transport it through land. So as we see, Cholas has made so much bronzes. And where did the raw material come from? Again, it is still an hypothesis. It is still not yet proved from where they have acquired their copper. But the hypothesis is that we have a fertile copper mine in the region, in the northern part of Sri Lanka. The copper belt is known as Ceruvilla copper belt, and even today we get archaeological evidence of copper mining, and it is very close to a seaport. So is it only because of the political dominance or maritime trade, or was it also because it was the only source of copper for the Cholas? So with this insight, we will move into the lecture again. So, when we talk of Chola bronzes, we know that Chola bronzes is a lost wax technique. It is made by the Cholas, but the Chola bronzes was made popular and it came in vogue because of a queen called Simbian Mahadevi. Her story is little intriguing and interesting. So, I would now delve into a little bit of history and a little bit of story, because it is a very bleak line that we could draw between the fact and the assumptions. So, Simbian Mahadevi, the popularist of the queens, she had the title Ruby of the Dynasty. In Tamil, they called Kulamanikam Nampiratiyar Simbian Mahadevi. She was the most powerful queen of Cholas, and she was the wife of Gandaraditya. A little bit of history again. Gandaraditya was the son of the famous ruler Parantaka Chola the First. So to identify him, he was the popular one who introduced the Kudavolai system. So Gandaraditya was a good ruler, but he was very much into Saivism. So he was an ardent follower of Nadaraja. So he ruled for 7 years, and then he left his wife and his only son, and he chose the path of spirituality. So this woman who was left by her husband, she contributed herself in public work. So the public work included building tanks, giving grants to temple, renovating villages, making gardens for the temple, and the huge, humongous work that she started was converting brick temples to stone temples. And it is also believed that she was the person who initiated the conversion of Nataraja from stone sculpture to metal sculpture. An interesting story that I heard from the Swamimalai artisans was that Gandaraditya was a great fan of Nataraja, and Simbian Mahadevi didn't want people to forget Gandaraditya. So she made sure that people remember Nataraja forever. And she also made a lot of donations of Nadaraja to the prominent temples of uh, Shiva in the Chola region. And she also introduced the public procession in the temples, which is called as Vidiyula. So she indirectly acted as a social reformer too. She she made different communities in the society economically and socially included. The Vidiyula gave opportunities for drummers, dancers, artists, craftsmen, and they were paid in a good way. So, with this, she was also a political strategist by creating opportunities for different communities and also making them feeling included. She made sure that people liked her and people were favorable to her. So, though was this part of her plan or not, we are not aware of it. But she made sure people start admiring Nataraja, and this has resulted that we have a Nataraja statue in New Delhi. Not only that, the Nataraja's love is still went far to Europe, and Nataraja is standing strong in Switzerland as well. So, apart from that, an interesting fact is that there is a temple in Koneri Rajapuram which has a very strong affinity to Sembian Mahadevi. So, Sembian, on her birthday, in this temple, she is celebrated as a goddess, and she comes in procession even today. So, if you look at her image in this slide, she looks very similar to Parvati, which we will be looking in the next slides. So the art historians believe that she believed herself to be Parvati, and she saw Gandaraditya in Nataraja. So she made sure that Nataraja becomes the most famous icon of the Chola bronzes. So this is the portrayal of a woman's love, grit, and intelligence. So when we talk about Chola bronzes, these places of the Kaveri belt are very, very important. So Tanjavur is their modern capital. Urayur was the capital of the earlier Cholas, which became an important economic city for the imperial Cholas. We have Parayare. Parayare is believed to be the place where Simbian Mahadevi was living. Gangaikonda Cholapuram, in later period, it became the capital of Cholas. We have 4 ports which is very closer to Sri Lanka. I would like to talk about the Sirivilla copper mine that I mentioned earlier. It would be very easier for us to trade copper from the Sirivilla copper mine from that port of Sri Lanka to these 4 ports. These 4 ports were very active during the time of Cholas, from 9th century to 13th century. And we also have Kanchipuram. So the mention of Kanchipuram here is because Pallavas were the prominent rulers before Cholas. They had established themselves in architecture, in temple building, and in sculpture making. So Cholas took them as their inspiration, and they developed the art and architecture from there. So among Chola bronzes, there are few images that were made again and again. And it is believed that there is a significant moral or story behind it. Nataraja, as we all know, it was prominently made famous by Simbian Mahadevi, and in later period, it was also done by her son Uttamachola, who ruled before the great Rajaraja the first. We see the Ardhanarishwara idol here. It symbolizes the equal energy of Shiva and Shakti. It brings the equality between man and woman. The Tripurantaka Murti has an equation with war. It is believed that whenever war happens, the Chola kings used to worship Tripurantaka, as this is a uh, form of Shiva who destroyed 3 worlds with one single arrow. So it is believed that the Cholas were also equally powerful, who were able to conquer all the land. So if you remember, this is the Parvati image that we are seeing now. And if you guys see the Sembian Mahadevi image here, with a little bit of less ornamentation, a little bit of less stylistic aspects, both would be very similar. And the famous Somaskanda panel, this is this is the main inspiration from the Pallavas. Pallavas made Somaskanda sculptures very famous, that it was implicated in bronze. Then we have Thiringyana Samandar, one of the 4 saints, Nalvar. So Thiringyana Samandar was also one of the prominent saints who were made in bronze. So as of now, we have seen how Chola bronzes became prominent, and what, from where the Chola bronzes are being made, what could be the source of raw material. Now we would be looking into the process or the technology of it. So as we all know, and I have mentioned, it is a lost wax technique. So first we would be preparing the wax. So the requirement would be pure bee wax, damar resin, groundnut oil. Damar resin in Tamil is also called as kengulium. It is a resin powder which is obtained, and it is mixed with groundnut oil in a ratio of 5:5:1, and then it is slightly heated, and then bee wax is added. In modern days, as an information from the artisans, bee wax are very scarce, so nowadays they have replaced it with paraffin wax. So once the wax is melted, it is filtered through a cloth, and then it is put in a cold bath to solidify, and then it is melted again to make the wax model. The preparation of the wax model, the very important process of it. Why Chola bronzes are very unique? It is because it is, every single piece is a unique model, because these wax model make it unique. So the artists use the wax prepared. They would use the talamana measurements, which are mentioned in the ancient text like Manasara, Shilparatna. They use odiolai or the palmilla leaves to measure the head, body, limbs, and each part of the sculpture, even the hair, even the armpits, and every tiny detail of it. The parts are made separately and then they are annexed together. And if the sculpture is very huge or if the model is too large, iron rods are used for support, and then the wax model is put in a cold bath. Cold bath is nothing but an iced water. The model is left in water for 24 hours. Then we have the mold making. The wax model is taken out of the water and then it is placed on a horizontal surface and then it is molded. For molding, we use alluvial soil, sand predominantly. As they live in the Kaveri Delta region, alluvial soil was abundant for them. So we have three types of clay. We have soft clay, we have fine clay, we have hard clay. So these clays were applied in layers. So first layer was soft clay, where alluvial soil, sand, and cow dung or ash is mixed. The clay becomes soft. It is molded over the wax model very carefully. Every tiny detail of it is molded, and then the fine clay is added, and then the hard clay. So it is, and when the mold is made, a runner is left at the bottom of it, so that when the mold is heated, the wax would run through it. So now the mold is, so by the end of this process, the wax mold is left to dry for 1 or 2 days. Once it dries completely, we will take it for the next process. So this is the wax modeler's table. If you look at it, this is the melted matte wax, and this is the wax that he is currently using. If you could see, it is liquefied. So this is the palmyra leaves or the odiolai that I mentioned. Here are his tools. Here is the fire, and he has his weapons heated there to make the mold. And here are the wax molding tools. So this is a scale that is used for measurement. And then these are chisels, these are wooden, uh, again wooden chisels. We have knives here, and this is a palmyra leaf. Again, this is called as odiola. You can see the measurements made here. The foldings you can see here, these are the measurements made for, this is for the neck, this is for the belly button, this is for the waist, this is for the knees, this is for the foot, excuse me. And you can also see the models made here. These are by the modern artisans. They are making models to make their work simpler. Here, if you see, he is using a palmyra leaf to measure the wax model here. And this is a complete wax model. Here you could see the iron rods are being supported. This is a Gaja Samhara Murti. If you could see, the elephant is here, his tails are here. So Gaja Samhara Murti is nothing but Shiva is killing a elephant shaped demon. And you could also see the uh, the if you could see this fire glaze, this is the mold you could see here. If you see here, these are molded with these. So yeah. And the next process is the dewaxing process. As I mentioned, this is the mold. So this is a dried mold. We were talking about alluvial soil and sand mixed together, and then they are packed over the wax model. So I would ask you to imagine that this is the wax model, and then the sand is applied over it, and the layers of clay is applied, and then it is dried. So this will become this. So, and you could also see a runner here. This is called as the runner. So when you melt the wax would come out of this opening. Next is the dewaxing process. In the dewaxing process, what we do is that the dried mold is placed on a furnace, and it is fueled with coconut pith, dry leaf, cow dung, husk, dried leaves, and a, in modern day a blower is mechanical blower is used. In olden days, a handmade blower is used to ignite the fire. As I said earlier, the wax would run through this runner, it would come out, and as the artists say, not the 100% of the wax comes out, 10% of it remains in the mold. So the next process would be melting and casting the metal. So metals can't be melted in any vessel, so it requires a very strong material. So that material is graphite. So the vessels used to melt graphite is known as crucible, and the furnace is also made of a specific measurement for that particular crucible. For example, if the crucible is in 10 centimeter of diameter, then the crucible is of 15 centimeter. So imagine that it shouldn't be too washed for the oxygen to escape, or else the metal won't be melted properly. So the metals are melted in their appropriate ratio, and it is heated up to 1,800 degrees Celsius. The molten metal is carefully poured into the mold while the mold is buried in the ground, because there is a possibility, if the molten metal is of very high temperature, it can break the mold as well. So for their precaution as well as for the mold's precaution, it is being buried in the ground. The ratio between the wax and the metal is very astonishing. It is 1:10. For example, if 1 kg of wax is used to make the wax mold, then 10 kg of metal is used. For example, imagine when I spoke to the artisan, he said this was a 5 kg, then it requires 50 kg of metal to cast it. The removal of the buried mold. So when the metal is poured and it is left to dry for 1 or 2 days, after 1 or 2 days, the mold is taken, it is broken, and the supporting iron rods are removed. The hard impurities are chiseled out. Soft ones are grinded with the emerald paper. Then it is filed and smoothened, and then the final engravings are done, and then it is polished. So this is the process through which we finally obtained a craftful Chola bronze. So here you could see the dewaxing happening. So here the wax is being collected. As these waxes are reusable, they use this collected wax again. This is the cow dung husk. You could see these are the fuels for dewaxing, and the mold is not visible here as it is under the surface. The next picture is of the crucible and the furnace. So this is the crucible. Crucible is nothing but the vessel in which the metal is molded. The crucible is made of graphite, and it is currently procured from Rajamudriya, Andhra Pradesh. And if you see, this is, even this distance is, according to the artisans, even this distance is pretty vast and the oxygen can escape. The furnace should even be very closer. And as you could notice, a puja is being done. So for metalsmiths, fire is very, very auspicious. So whenever they ignite the fire, they make sure they do a puja for it, and then the process is started. Sorry, I'm not able to show you the molten metal, because when I visited the workshop, that was not happening there. This is a casted mold, which is the metal has been casted. It is let to dry for 2 days, and now the mold is broken. So you could see here the metal is very slightly visible, but there is a lot of impurities. So we still have few process to be done. This is called chiseling. Now the major impurities are chiseled out. You could see the chiseling impression in her thighs very clearly on her leg, on both her legs. So the very soft impurities, they will be removed by the emerald paper. They will brush it over it, and the softer impurities will be removed. And you could see the engraving being done here. So it would be a flat surface. They will use these tools. They use different chisels and nails to bring these beautiful engraving. And this is a finely polished idol. So after so many process, this is what we get to see in the temples. So this idol has to go through these many process, and it is truly astonishing to see what these artisans make every day. They make a metal and they transform it into a idol that is a belief system of thousands of people. So who are these artisans? These artisans are people who have been in the history for a very long time. So they are called as the Vishwakarma community. They mainly specialize in wood carving, blacksmithing, copper smithing, stone carving, and goldsmithing. If you had observed something, the tools that they use, the machines that they use, or the board that they use, everything is made by them. I'm not talking about the uh, modernized machines like drillers or something, but whatever tools that we have observed in the previous slides, all those were made by their own selves. So if you could understand something in past days, they can't go to a specific tool maker and ask for it. So they were the tool makers who were using it. So they had an idea of everything. These community were also known as Kammalar. So every empire, every dynasty had the Vishwakarma community. It is also believed that they were free from taxes as they were contributing towards the empire largely. They were building temples, they were building palaces, they were minting coins, they were making ornaments. You name it, they had their contribution towards it. Now, where are these Vishwakarmas of the southern India? So we see the Vishwakarma community spread widely in Swamimalai, Devakotai, Mahabalipuram, Kadalur, and Nagapatnam region. They are also settled in very few pockets of other places, but they are predominantly in these five places. So what's their legacy? How did these people have the story that they have? So the story began, or the history began, when Kunjaramalla Perundachan, who was from Senji, the current day Tiruvannamalai, he was invited by Rajaraja I to build a stone temple in the Kaveri belt. It is believed that Kunjaramalla Perundachan and his predecessors were the one who built the temples in Kanjipuram. So they had the idea of building stone temples. So he was invited, and he was the chief architect who planned the Tanjavur Brihadishwara temple. Post that, it is believed that him and his family settled in the Kaveri belt and they never went back. They have very interesting stories behind it. It is also believed that Rajaraja Chola didn't want anyone to know the secrets behind how the big temple was built. So he didn't let Kunjaramalla Perundachan to go back. And he wanted to keep him very closer to him. So he wanted to keep him in Parayarai, but he couldn't keep him because there was a big jail or prison in Parayarai. So the political prisoners might take these secrets of art and architecture and they could spread it to other areas. So he made sure that he made Kunjaramalla Perundachan settle in a secluded place, which was Swamimalai. Swamimalai was not the prominent place then. So the as we spoke about the past legend, we should also speak about the living legends who are making this craft living, and they are making the bronze idols even today. So it is believed that they call themselves as the 34th generation of Kunjaramalla Perundachan. But as of Census of India, they have sourced and they have traced that they have a continuous 9 generation of lineage in this bronze making technology. So the prominent sthapatis who are existing include Radha Krishna Sthapati. There's a spelling mistake. Very sorry for that. It is Radha Krishna Sthapati and Sendil Kumar. Uh, Devasenapati Sthapati passed away very recently. And the very important thing about the Swamimalai artist and the bronzes that they do is the government of India has considered their bronzes for their uniqueness and the tradition that is transformed through generations. It has been awarded the GI tag, Geographic Indication tag, in the year 2008 2009. But with so many legacy, what is the socio-economic conditions of these artisans today? Initially, this was a cottage industry. So cottage industry is an industry where family is involved and there is no taxation required. The family invests in the business and it is a traditional way of making bronzes. If you look at it even today, in Swamimalai, it is a traditional way of doing things. It is a family business. It is family investment, but it has been upgraded to small scale industry because they are using few electric grillers and few electronic items. So as artisans, they sadly express their views that the taxation for them is very high, which is not affordable. But this is the state as of it, that they have been upgraded to a small scale industry. The wages of the artisans, as I visited, the current wages of the artisans per day, it is maximum of 600 to 800 rupees. uh, and it also includes the specific tasks that they do. If they are given a specific task of making wax mold of a big sculpture, then the wages of the artists increase. Otherwise, it is a constant of 600 to 800 rupees per day. They also express their financial constraint due to the seasonality of the business. Apart from that, there is a price hike of raw materials. As you see, the gold price hikes, copper price also hikes. The copper is rupees 900 kg, no, sorry, rupees 900 per kg today. Brass is rupees 500 per kg today, and lead is 200 to 250 rupees per kg today. If you look at the prices, it will be affordable, but we are talking about bronze casting. And as I mentioned earlier, if we use 10 kgs of wax, we need 100 kgs of metal. So then imagine the cost price, it hikes humongously. And the alternative modern techniques. The alternative modern techniques of making these bronzes has made Swamimalai bronzes less significant. We have a very less quality replicas being made. We have 3D printing and modeling, etc. Apart from that, we should also speak of the physiological effects that the artists undergo. Due to their working environment, they have urinary infection due to the heat. They have hearing impairments due to the continuous noise of the chisels. They have diminishing vision, and which results in myopia as they work very closely with the artifact that they work. Apart from that, they have joint and spiral problems because they are seated in a same position for a whole day. Then they have nervous weakness and they also have very less blood flow. So these are the conditions of our artisans. Apart from that, despite all these socio-economic conditions, these artisans are soaring high and are achieving humongous. So this Stabatis of Swamimalai, they have been awarded the National Award for Art 4 times. Recently, Radhakrishna Stabati was awarded the Padmashri in the year 2024-2025. And they also hold the world record of making the largest Nadaraja sculpture, which is 28 feet high, on the occasion of the G20 summit few years back. So this is the image of Mr. Radhakrishna Stapati, who is receiving Padmashri Award from President Draupadi Murmu. This is the 28 feet Nadaraja, which stands tall in the Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi. This is the special certificate issued by Census of India 2001. Here it says, if you see keenly, you could see genealogy of Stabatis of Swami Malai. So this is the legacy and this is the pride that they are carrying for generations, and it is being done till today. When we speak of bronzes and how they are made, it is also very important to know how it should be preserved. So, I would be talking about very few conservation and preservation techniques. There are n number of techniques, but the predominant ones I'll be mentioning here. If the bronzes are being displayed in a museum, the humidity should be less. It should have a very stable temperature, because a very fluctuating temperature would result in causing bronze disease. I'll be mentioning what bronze disease is very shortly. And we need a very controlled lighting to avoid the UV rays and the other ultraviolet rays. And we also need a very clean environment, as metals have the ability to uh, grab dirts easily. Next, despite being in a museum or in an open space, if a bronze is accumulated with dust or dirt, the very easiest way or the very efficient way of cleaning it would be using a liquid soap in a lint free cloth, and it has to be cleaned with hands. Or else, if it is of a large scale cleaning, you can use a steam cleaning, where the idols are put in a steamer, and then it is taken out in a 10 to 15 minutes span of time. So when we speak of bronzes, we would have seen bronzes in green color. So these green colors are not colors, these occur due to oxidation. Oxidation is nothing but the process when copper reacts with oxygen. So primarily what happens is copper reacts with oxygen and it forms cuprous oxide. So cuprous oxide is nothing but copper 2 oxide, which forms a red patina. Red patina is nothing but the shiny bronze becomes a dark brownish bronze. And when that dark brownish bronze continues to react with carbon dioxide and moisture, it develops a green patina, which is copper carbonate. So these patinas can be cleared by using vinegar, flour, and salt. These three has to be made into a paste, and it has to be applied on the surface very softly and then removed. To preserve this oxidation, you can apply a coat of microcrystalline wax. So microcrystalline wax are melted, and a very thin layer of it is applied on the surface of the bronzes. But this microcrystalline wax has to be changed every 6 months. Finally, we have the bronze disease. The bronze disease is nothing but when the copper reacts with the chloride of the environment. The chlorine is the chloride occurs in the environment due to an unstable temperature. So this copper chloride has a very bad impact on the bronze. It is comparatively dangerous. When you compare it to copper oxide and copper carbonate, copper chloride is very dangerous, because it not only produces the green patina, but it also produces a powdery substance. So what it means is it erodes the upper layer of the bronze. So it is diminishing the bronze itself. So how it could be stopped? It could be stopped by cleaning it with a solution which holds 2% of benzotriazole in a rectified spirit. And when it's once it's clean, 2% of polyvinyl acetone is used over it as a protective layer. So these are the very commonly used conservation and preservation techniques for bronze. And last but not the least, I should talk about the law and the idol wing. So if you have a legacy of making bronzes for 1,000 years, those are artistically beautiful, those have heritage and cultural values, obviously it would be demanded all around the world. So we have laws in our country to protect smuggling and illicit trafficking of these beautiful artifacts. So the prominent act is the Antiquities and Art Treasure Act of 1972. This act was formed after the UN Convention 1970. So during this convention, UN said that the antiquity and artifacts are being illicitly trafficked and smuggled all over the world. So every UN nation should bring out a law, and that is how this law was born. And this law brought in a lot of new terminologies, new positions, and new roles for the government offices to take care of these idols. So this law mentions what an antiquity is. Antiquity is nothing but any material of historical significance that dates more than 100 years can be called as an antiquity. And if it's a manuscript, it should be 75 years old, and it should also hold cultural and historical significance. If anyone who has an antiquity should register and obtain an antiquity certificate from the registration officer. The person registration officer is a very important person who keeps the record of the antiquities of the specific region. Apart from that, this act also introduced Antiquity Advisory Board. Antiquity Advisory Board is a group of people which holds, the people there include archaeologists, art historians, bureaucrats, lawyers. So it includes a diverse people who would have a say over the laws, the crimes, and the changes that has to be made according to the future. And it also mentions the offenses and the penalties to be given for the people who are involved in illicit trafficking and smuggling. So the next one would be the idol wing. So why I have mentioned idol wing is that it is very unique and it is very special because only Tamil Nadu has an idol wing in its police force. This was established in 1983. It primarily it was part of the crime branch. In 2000, it became a part of the economic offenses wing. So the purpose of this wing was to recover and track stolen ancient artifacts from temples. So the famous case was the Subhash Kapoor case. It was also it has also come out as a beautiful book, Idol Thief. So Subhash Kapoor was an art dealer from America who has smuggled hundreds of artifacts from Tamil Nadu to various parts of world. Very sadly, in this case, a lot of government officials, a lot of policemen were also involved. But we could happily say that our idol wing had tracked and had brought back most of the bronzes that were smuggled and trafficked. The Nataraja sculpture that you see in the left was also one among them. It is the Sri Puranathan Nataraja, which is 1,000 years old. It came back to India in 2014. So the first picture that you see, the man with the big mustache, in his uh, who is not in his uniform, is Mr. Pon Manikavel IPS. He was the force behind solving Subhash Kapoor case in 2012. So you could see the bronzes are being recovered. And this is a very politically important as well as artistically important picture. Here you could see this man. He is Mr. Tim Abbott, who is returning the 1,000-year-old Nadaraja sculpture, which you could see here, to our Indian Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, in 2014. And this is the office, these are the officers who had restored a lot of bronzes. They also keep a documentation and records of the temple bronzes of Tamil Nadu. So once again, sorry for cutting back, but I would like to mention about the green patina. The green patina that I mentioned, these, if you could see it clearly, this is the green patina that I mentioned. Uh, it looks beautiful, but it is uh, it is a malfunction. It has to be conserved. But few uh, nowadays artists say that few requests are made specially to make bronzes with these green patina. So uh, this would be the end of my presentation. And one thing I would like to mention is that the idol thief case, it ended in the year 2012, but the judgment is yet to be made. So now we are given a question that who are responsible and who should be responsible for these bronzes. So when a country like us has a culture, a heritage, and a tradition that is being continued for 1,000 years, it is predominantly and primarily responsibility of every citizen to take care of it tradition and heritage. So it is every individual's responsibility to cherish and also to conserve this beautiful tradition that is existing. I would also request all the participants, if time permits, to go to Swami Malai and visit those beautiful artisans who are making wonders every day. So this would be the end of my presentation. Thank you.